couple of years ago, I produced a series of videos about standardized testing and education. I sort of stopped in the middle of those videos because it didn't really seem like anyone was watching or interested in them, and also I was sort of falling into a downward spiral of depression. But I kind of want to finish those videos, just make a video to sort of put a capstone on it, just so that I feel like it's been completed. I know it's not really as relevant to the, conversation in society today, or even to my own vlogs over the past year, but yeah, I just want to put a bow on it. So if you're watching this and you haven't seen my other videos in this series, it might be a good idea to go back and check them out. I'm going to jump right in where I left off, and you could probably follow along, but context helps. Education is different than evaluation. They're two separate things. You can study and practice without ever taking a test, without ever getting a grade. Parenting classes don't usually end with a written test. Neither does yoga. People still do them, and frequently are better off for it. Likewise, you can take and pass a test without ever taking a class on a subject. Both independent study and experiential learning are ways that this can happen. Understanding that these are different things with different purposes is fundamental to understanding the role that evaluation should play in our education system. Specifically, the primary goal of evaluation should not be to determine the quality of education or the intelligence of the student. The purpose of evaluation is to determine mastery, to be a gateway. Institutional accountability is not the primary purpose of testing students. Student accountability is. And student accountability should be the primary purpose of our standardized tests. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You want to put students in the hands of standardized tests too? Are you nuts? You want to hand the entire education system over to these tests? No, not at all. The goal is not to tighten control over schools. That's what we're doing wrong now. Rather, the goal is to gather information and use it in an appropriate place. And when you ask a student to take a test, the results of that test are most relevant to that student's progress, needs, and mastery. It tells you what the student knows and what they're ready for. There are a lot of schools out there where students are pushed from grade level to grade level without ever even getting close to passing the standardized tests for that grade level. That's horrifying. Putting a child in a class that they are not prepared for is setting them up for failure. But it's something we do systematically every single day in our education system. You can talk about concepts like differentiation until you're blue in the face, but a modern algebra textbook is utterly and completely useless to a child that has not mastered pre-algebra. Now, maybe the problem has more to do with the so-called factory model of education, but that's a deeper discussion for another day, and honestly, most schools aren't really interested in having it. They're going to continue to use modern textbooks and modern teaching methods that rely on targeted instruction. Therefore, the students need to be in the right place so that targeted instruction can be as effective as possible. Besides that, the whole concept of differentiation has to do with learning styles and teacher resources. It was never intended to be an excuse to put 36 students with vastly different learning levels all in the same classroom and then ask the teacher to deal with it. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks. Yes, we need to give teachers more responsibility and control over how they teach their students. That's a big part of the idea of separating the responsibility for evaluating students from the responsibility for educating them. When you stop thinking about evaluation as a means to control the education process, and instead think about it as a gateway for the students to demonstrate mastery, it opens up a world of flexibility. The purpose shouldn't be to test them every step of the way and make sure that the educators are staying in line. It should be to test them at the end of the process to see how they come out of it. So this constant testing to see whether or not the educators are doing it right is nonsensical. The testers have absolutely no business telling the educators how to do their job. The job of evaluators is to answer one simple question: has the student mastered that skill? Now, certainly, when an institution demonstrates a systemic inability to promote student mastery, that institution should be examined. But that's something that needs to happen over the long term, and it's not the job of evaluators. It's the job of other educators. Furthermore, it's not the job of evaluators to determine the quality of students. Educators will get to know their students, and it is the job of educators to help each student individually along the path towards mastery. The job of evaluation is just to determine whether they've made it. For that reason, there should be absolutely no limit on retries, and there should be absolutely no permanent record of failure, because there is no reason for either of those things. If you need to know how to use algebra to solve problems, then it does not matter how long it took you to get to the point where you could do it. It only matters that you have mastered that skill. That's what it means to certify mastery. The bottom line here, the reason I feel like it's worth making this video is that what I'm talking about here is a relatively easy change to make. I'm not asking anyone to reevaluate their assumptions about how they should educate children. I'm not proposing a new system, and I'm not proposing a new pedagogy. I'm just suggesting that we change how we use standardized tests. And it's not a big change. Give the test to students when they or their teachers say that they are ready. And if they pass the test, send them back to school with assurances that they're ready for the next test. But if they fail, send them back to school with a note saying they're not ready yet. And let the school handle it from there. Simple. Now, stop for a second and think about the alternative education systems. Does this impose on them? Not one bit. But what it does is ensure, or at least identify, that every single student is achieving mastery. What it does is give us a record, a definitive record of the skills that each child has. It satisfies the need of the education system to certify a student's skills and say, yes, this student has these skills. And ultimately, that's what evaluation is for. That's what standardized tests are for, or should be for, and that's how we should use them. Well, this video has been a long time coming, but it kind of puts a capstone on that series, and hopefully you found something of value while watching it. If you have any thoughts, please share them in the comments, and otherwise, have a wonderful day.